What's up? It's Dr. Will James in the building. Okay, so today I'm here and I am doing a reaction to my 10v1. I was on Sean Kelly's Digital Social Hour where I had a 10v1 debate, three different topics. Um, we sat down for over 4 hours. I think it was like 4.5, 5 hours. The edited clip is over 4 hours. I think it's 4 hours and 3 minutes, 4 hours and 5 minutes. So we were talking about systemic racism. We were talking about uh, the Carmelo Anthony case, and then we were talking about I forget the third topic. This was over a month ago. I forget the third topic. Um, but yeah, I'm just gonna sit down, watch the video, um, and give my critique on what I think about the debates. I don't know if you really can consider them debates. I guess it is a debate. It was. It's not like a formal style debate. It's not like it was a Lincoln Douglas debate or anything like that. I state my claim. I state my position. They come up and they argue against it, but it's not like I get to question them specifically on certain things that they said. After they go, it's like we were trying to speak in the moment and go over certain things. Um, I will say this: the fact check. I learned later on that the fact check, it's not completely accurate because it's. Hold on. Yeah, the fact check wasn't completely accurate. Hold on. Yeah, so the fact check wasn't completely accurate. Um, they were using an AI fact check. So when you're speaking, the machine would hear like two people speaking, and it would pick up what both people said. So then when it fact checks it, if it heard both people speaking, it heard what both people said, it's not going to give an accurate fact check because it heard what both people said rather than one person. Um, and then even if it just heard what you said, um, it wasn't always completely accurate anyway. So that's why I've said several times I like what they did with the Andrew Wilson and Candace Owens debate, where they had people from their teams sitting back, fact checking in the moment, pulling up on a computer. I'm more of a person who really likes to get to the truth. I'm not here to debate for clicks, views, and monetary gain and things like that. If you can get that with the truth, then I guess that's okay. But my main person, the main purpose, the main objective should be just arriving at the truth. Is there real systemic oppression? Is there really prejudice, racism against black people in America today? Do we see this with the facts? If that is the case, I don't think we should have anything that is trying to take away from it. And I don't like that. When I go on platforms, I analyze a platform and I see what's the angle. I know we're in the business of clicks and views, but sometimes I think people use these moments, and sometimes it goes against their expectations. They think, oh, if I post this, it's going to get a lot of clicks and views, and it does it because it takes away from the main topic. So I'm going to break this down. I'm going to analyze this. I'm watching it live with you all the first time, and then we'll see what we get to. No, we deserve some reparations for building the country for free and being unjustly imprisoned and enslaved and beaten. No, we deserve some reparations for building the country for free and being unjustly imprisoned and enslaved and beaten and pillaged and psychologically damaged. And then following that, they never took their foot off our neck with Jim Crow.
Probably the dumbest person I've ever debated in an institution gave you a doctorate.
That's what I don't understand. People who go against my talking points truly hate black people.
Didn't you write a book called Black Supremacy? You are a black nationalist.
Did you read the book?
You are an ethno-nationalist.
You didn't read the book.
And that's insane.
It's an economist.
$300,000 to 40 million people, $12 trillion. I know you struggle with math a little bit, but it's $12 trillion.
I already said 12 trillion. Black people in America, we've been running a marathon, and everyone else has been starting at mile 20. We had to start at mile 0, and then people ahead of us, they don't want to just us to catch up. They don't want us to get our reparations. You're one of those people, I understand.
I'm a white supremacist.
Oh, no. Nope, we're not going down that one.
All right, so my first prompt is that Carmelo Anthony was not guilty of murder.
Yes.
So before we get into the first prompt, I think it's important people don't think about these things, but there's things that people don't see. So you have discourse before the debate. We go over, before the discussions, we have a set of rules. Try not to use ad hominem, things like that. I told everyone straight up that I'm not going to use ad hominem. That's number one. Number two, they told these people, like, oh, if you use ad hominem and you don't get crazy, then that's cool. Certain things are cool for ratings and views and for clicks and for your content to go more viral. So I never do that. But when people do that, like you see in some of the highlights there, I'm like, oh, this person is here for clicks and views. They want to go viral, things like that. So just keep that in mind with some of the things. Also keep in mind, in this 10v1, I didn't know any of these people I was going against. They knew who I was, and you're going to hear them several times reference my clips, things that they've seen of me, things like that. So the whole point of the 10v1 is you're at a disadvantage. But the disadvantage is amplified when they know who you are and you don't know who they are as well. The only person who I knew I was going to go against, it was a few days before, the only person I knew I was going to go against was Soy Pill, who was the first person.
The reason people are talking about this case is because I think a lot of race baiters picked it up and were able to push this as this narrative that white people are being persecuted, that black people don't face punishment for their crimes, and inevitably, like, this is going to spread and cause this racist propaganda. And I think it's really dangerous if we don't get this 100% accurate, because what you're doing is you're ceding ground. Moderate or people who aren't really keeping up with this case will see this and say, that seems reasonable. I think that sentencing wasn't wrong. And if you're not saying it, if us progressives aren't saying it, people on the left, then they're going to go listen to racist people and go down that pipeline. So I want to be super clear that I do think it was murder based on the evidence, and I'd like to hear why you think it wasn't.
So according to the Texas Penal Code, Texas Penal Code 19.02, murder in Texas requires intent. It says, 1, intentionally or knowingly cause the death of another person. 2, intend to cause serious bodily injury and commit an act clearly dangerous to human life that causes death. Or 3, cause death during the commission of another felony. So like, robbing a bank and someone ends up,
Right.
getting killed. So, I think based off those definitions, you can't say that what Carmelo Anthony did was murder. His actions before, during, and after the stabbing point to an innocent person who didn't intend to kill anyone.
Sure. So I think on one, obviously, intentionally or knowing.
So notice what I'm doing here. I'm being objective. I defined what murder is according to Texas Penal Code 19.2. I'm not here to play games. I truly believe what I'm arguing based on the facts, data, statistics, things like that. A lot of these people are disingenuous with their arguments. I'm not saying he is. I think Soy Pill was the most, how can I say it, fair, honest person that, I had a discussion with this day. One of. All of the, I think it was 2 of the black guys that I had a discussion with that were pretty fair. But notice how I'm just going with the facts. one of those definitions can be completely excluded because we know Carmelo Anthony wasn't committing any crime when the stabbing wasn't a commission of another crime of a felony. So then when you look at the other two, you have to prove his intent. He didn't stab him for no reason. He didn't just walk in the tent and stab him. Secondly, he stabbed him, but you would have to prove he intended to kill him when he stabbed him. And my whole argument is that stabbing someone one time who's grabbing you, a bigger person who has a 70-pound weight advantage on you and is attacking you, you don't have to let an attack advance. Because I always say this, people are like, oh, attacking someone, yes. I grab you and shove you or whatever, push you. The next thing could be punches, kicks. You don't have to let an attack advance. So to stab someone to get them off you doesn't prove murder, doesn't prove you intended to murder. And then further, when you look at the statistics surrounding stabbing victims, how would anyone know that this person would die, especially from one stab wound? So stabbing someone in the chest area doesn't prove you intended to stab them in the heart, doesn't prove you intended to kill them.
Causing death, I think that's up in the air. I don't think you could use a preponderance of evidence to prove that. 3, obviously, he wasn't committing another felony. The knife he had on him was completely legal. I think it was against school rules, but that's not a felony. But on 2, so intends to cause serious bodily injury and intentionally or knowingly commits an act clearly dangerous to human life. I think this is without a doubt, if you're escalating force, using something that can kill someone, that's a knife, that is going to be intentionally causing serious bodily injury. That is intent to cause something that is clearly dangerous to a human. And even if you thought...
Quickly, I'm so fair that I told these people how I was going to start my argument for this. When we came in before the debate, when I met everyone, I told them that I'm using a definition. I don't think a lot of them had the Texas Penal Code definition down. I don't really think most of them did. I don't even think Swordpill did. Even though he did a good job adjusting, I don't think he had the definition down. Because they came and was like, oh, let me see what the definition of Texas Penal Code. A couple of them did that. And I showed them because I'm being honest and fair. So I just want to put that out there.
Oh, a knife isn't that dangerous. You can't use ignorance to how dangerous that could be to say that wouldn't cause harm. The same as if he shot him. Shooting, isn't always going to kill you, but that's not, he could be ignorant of that, but that doesn't matter. The jury just has to show, oh, he intended to cause something that could do serious bodily harm.
So by definition and based off the data, based off the studies, I don't know how anyone, even if we brought a medical doctor in here, based on percentage-wise, when we look at statistics, I don't know that you can say that stabbing someone is clearly dangerous to human life. It's clearly going to cause bodily injury, but based on data, it's not clearly dangerous to human life. And I'll cite 3 studies. So we have 3 studies from PubMed here. All right. They did a study in Malawi where they had 2,352 stab victims. Only 3.2% of those stab victims died. They did a study in North London, 645 victims. 0.8% of those stab victims died. They did a 17-year study with 1,961 victims of interior abdominal stab wounds. Less than 2%, 1.9% of those victims died. These are all on PubMed. So victims who get stabbed are
more than likely not to die.
More than likely not to die. So
And
if we
you're
brought a
familiar-
medical doctor in here, they would say, well, what are the chances of them dying? And they're going to say, well, less than 95% chance of this person dying.
Sure, those are the aggregate stats, but you're familiar with the shooting PubMed stats, right?
Yes.
How many people die from gunshot wounds?
33%.
Yeah, so it's over 60% of people survive gunshot wounds, but that is not an argument that gunshot wounds are not lethal force, that are not something that would cause the 19.0 or 902 statute 2. That's still major bodily harm that could cause death. And that's all you need to prove. You don't need to show that he knew it would cause death. You don't need to show that in his head he was like, this will kill him, because you can't read his mind. All you need to show is stabbings are lethal force. Stabbings are major bodily harm. Any stab could be, sever an artery, have you bleed out. Any stab in the heart, that could kill him. It doesn't matter if he wanted to kill him. I think you and I would agree he probably didn't want to, right? He didn't keep stabbing him. He ran away. He was trying to get out of that situation, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that he escalated with lethal force.
It does matter, because if we agree that he didn't intend to kill him, then by definition, it's not murder. So we look at his actions before, during, and after. he wasn't trying to come across anyone. He wasn't trying to be combative with anyone. He was sitting in a dugout. It was raining. He was told to move from the dugout. He left from the dugout. He left directly from the dugout, walked and entered the stadium on the same side where the dugout is. I can show it to you if you don't believe me.
No, I believe
And
you.
then he didn't walk far from when he entered. He was invited into the tent, according to Whitney testimony by Eddie Pera.
Mhm.
He sat there. He was in the tent for at least 6 minutes, according to all of the documentation, at least 6 minutes from when I reviewed the camera footage, at least 6 minutes until the Metcalf brothers entered the tent without confrontation. When they entered the tent, then a confrontation occurred.
Mhm.
He doesn't have to leave. You can stand your ground. It's like if one of you told me right now to leave this room and I said, no, this is not your space. You have no authority over me,
Sure.
to make me leave.
But
And
that
then-
wouldn't give you the right to stab me if I said to leave and you didn't leave.
But if you put your hands on me, I have the right to defend myself.
Not with lethal force. That's a unnecessary escalation.
Yeah, but you have to prove I intended to use lethal
Right.
like
And
to kill you.
stabbing and shooting, things like this are considered lethal force, just regardless. Even if
Right.
you don't think it is, you can't use your ignorance to plead that, oh, I didn't know. It's a reasonable, objective standard of what is lethal force. So that is stabbing, that is shooting. And so the PubMed stats don't really factor into that because, yeah, sure, a lot of people survive stabbings, but that's still lethal force. If you punched me, punching can kill someone, but punching isn't objectively considered by like the reasonable standard to be lethal force unless you have like, a history of killing people with punches or you're like an MMA fighter. Most people would say, yeah, a bar fight that results in an accidental death is not going to end up killing someone for the most part. But stabbing is, shooting is, any other thing where you're like, I don't know, hitting someone with a car. These are things that fall under that section 2, which would be intent to cause serious bodily injury. That's what using a knife is.
Yeah, so comparing shooting to stabbing is a logical fallacy because there's a significant difference of over 25% in the mortality rate. So we can stop using the shootings.
What
But it's
percentage would
also-
you be like, okay, well, now it's reasonable? Because what you have a
Well, with the-
proprietary definition of reasonable right now. Like most juries, this is just how this works in the legal system. Stabbing is lethal force, especially when the opponent hasn't even punched you yet, right? Like this is not a defense of your life. The self-defense is undermined when you could have left and didn't do this. So when he's like, hey, touch me and see what happens, this is him escalating something that was provoked by them. Don't get me wrong, but that's still him escalating the situation. So what would that line have to be for you? Would it be, oh, 60% of people die from this, 70% of people die from this, right? Like you could say, how many heart stabs result in deaths? And that is where he stabbed him. Now, I don't think he did that on purpose, but he did stab him in the heart. So you'd have to look at those statistics and then say, well, 60% of people stabbed in the heart might die. Like,
No, they don't.
Oh yeah.
So
How
let's
many
look
people
at
die
that.
stabbed
So
in the heart?
among patients reaching the hospital with stab wounds involving the heart, the mortality rate is approximately 11.5%.
Okay.
So, and then again, you would have to intend that he intended to stab him in the heart and not just the chest area where the numbers dropped drastically to 7.7%.
But think about that, 11%,
because you said
right?
one thing. You said that self-defense leaves the claim leaves when you could have left and you didn't leave. Well, that's not true because Texas has a stand your ground law. I don't have to leave, especially somewhere where I'm not told to leave by someone in authority. If you're not the business owner, if you're not an employee, he was told to leave a place by another teenager after he was invited there by other teenagers. He didn't have to leave. If there would have been an adult who told him to leave, then you can make that argument. But a kid telling him to leave and he chose not to leave, and then the kid put his hands on him first, and then he defended himself. And you said, oh, well, punching someone or I haven't punched someone yet, that doesn't mean like it's fearful for your life. I teach martial arts. That's an attack. If I grab you, that's an attack. Grabbing you, we know what comes next: punches, kicks, knees, who knows what's coming next, elbows. So you stop the attack before it progresses. And that's what he did. And we know he was sorry because he immediately dropped the knife. He stabbed him one time. He ran. What did he do? What did he ask the cop?
He said, is he okay, right?
Yes, he asked the cop, is he okay? What did he tell the coach when he walked back over to check on Austin Metcalf? They walked back near the tent. What did he tell the coach?
I don't remember this one.
He told the coach he's not going to die.
Okay.
All this proves that he thought he wasn't going to die. He didn't intend for him to die. What 17-year-old kid do you know is checking up on someone, asking this while you're in handcuffs? Is he going to be okay?
Yeah. Well, I
He's
think
not
you and I
gonna
agree
die.
on this, right? Like, I don't think he had any intent in his brain that he was going to kill this person, but that's just not how the law works. If you use lethal force, and knife is lethal force, that's why.
So we already said, according to the Texas Penal Code 19.2, you need intent. So if Soy Pill is sort of conceding here to the argument that if he doesn't agree that he intended to kill him, then it's not murder based on the Texas Penal Code. I already defined it, and you need intent. So if you say he didn't intend to kill him, but he ended up killing him, then that's not murder. You can say it's manslaughter, it was a negligent homicide, but you can't say murder.
Like you brought up this stat, 11% of stab wounds to the heart are lethal, right? This is not actually evidence in your favor because people trying to stab someone in the heart usually are trying to kill them, right? This is not something that you accidentally do a lot. I think Austin, didn't get stabbed on purpose in the heart. I think it was like a, hey, I'm stabbing you. And he ran away immediately, right? But that doesn't really matter. The purpose is people try to kill people by stabbing them in the heart, and it doesn't even often kill them, right? They often survive. So you just have to prove that this is lethal force, and that's what a knife is. You don't have to show that, oh, most people don't die from stabbing. Most people don't die from shooting. That doesn't mean shooting isn't lethal force. And if you use lethal...
But you do, though, because there's a big difference between shooting someone in the head and shooting someone in the foot. The numbers go up drastically for people who are shot in the head, since he's bringing up shootings. The numbers go up drastically for people who are stabbed in the neck. He stabbed him in the chest area. And again, we all know your torso. We know this is a large range. You would have to prove, one, that he was specifically trying to aim for the heart, which when you look at the video and you look at the quick attack, he wasn't. And there's no proof that he was trying to aim at the heart. And it just doesn't even make sense with him moving and crushing down on him that he would be trying to aim for the heart. Again, a lot of people who are disingenuous, dishonest about this argument, they act as if Carmelo Anthony was John Wick, and we know he's not. He's not some knife expert or anything like that. Again, his actions before, during, and after don't prove intent.
force, that's all you need to show is he intended to cause him bodily harm. That's it.
Yeah, but we have to look at the nuances and the variables of it.
Mhm.
It's a difference between shooting someone one time and stabbing someone one time. I bet you if you look at data for people who got stabbed over 25 times, I bet you it's significantly higher than people who got stabbed one time.
Yeah, but a lot of
If you
people
look at
survive
victims
too.
who got shot 12 times versus victims who got shot one time, that matters. You can't say, oh, lethal force was just used. According to the definition, you have to prove intent. The burden of proof is on the state, not the citizen, to prove intention.
The burden of proof is to intent to cause bodily harm, and stabbing once is all you need because that is lethal force. One stab can kill you, as we've seen here.
It's not intent to cause bodily harm. The full penal code law states intent to cause serious bodily injury and commit an act clearly dangerous to human life.
Yes,
That's both.
stabbing is an act clearly dangerous to human life. As, according to juries, according to courts, this is a reasonable standard of dangerous to human life.
With the intention of.
Yeah, to cause that harm. But you can't use the ignorant. You can't say, "Oh, well, he didn't know. Carmelo didn't know this would cause bodily harm."
You
That's
can't-
not enough.
You
No,
can use it.
it's not.
You literally can.
That's not. Just because I don't know that the gun will kill you does not mean that you can say, "Oh, well, he didn't know guns killed people." You can't use ignorance of the law to say that it's okay to
But
do
they
it.
do use it all the time. So it's like someone's cognitive state is always brought into question when they enter court.
It matters,
That's how we
yes.
get people who are deemed not fit to stand trial because of their cognitive issues. They
Yeah,
could be
this matters.
deemed insane or something like that. So it matters.
Sure, but
If
if
I
you're-
can prove you did not intend, if I can in fact prove you did not intend to, you did not know it would kill the person, then you're not going to get the same time as someone where I prove you intend to kill the person.
Well, maybe we can find agreement there because I don't think he should have gotten 35 years, right? Because it was
That was a good gem right there. That was a good defense right there. And we see this now with the whole, what's her name? Lauren Clancy, whatever this lady's name is. They're trying to argue that this lady she was under some post-traumatic psychosis from, postpartum psychosis and all this stuff from the medication. So they look at a person's cognitive state, their mental state. They always look at it to say, okay, did this person know at the time that what this would do, what this would cause? We see this right now. They're trying to say she had so much drugs in her system that you can't hold her accountable for 3 strangulations. Now, I don't agree, but they always argue the mental state. Now, if someone was, overdosed on drugs that, Big Pharma gave them, this is the argument. Then they would say, okay, this person isn't guilty. This person was so drugged up from medical doctors, we have to sue the medical doctors for giving this person too many drugs. So you literally can't run from this fact. You do have to prove the intention. So again, I think he was the most fair. I think he's being fair. But in him being fair, we're getting to the truth that it isn't murder.
on them, even if it is still a murder charge, and I think that would still pass, you can reduce that sentence, right? And you're aware that there's like this 2 to 20 years for a crime of passion. I think this was a crime of passion, right? This was like a split-second decision. Although he did escalate a situation, he could have left. Escalating that situation when people are surrounding you, telling you to leave when you didn't provoke them, and you're like, I'm just trying to get away from that. All that evidence you just used to say he checked if he was okay, he ran away, he came back to check on him. This shows me that he probably didn't try to kill him. It was probably a split-second decision to try to like get out of that situation, right? I think that there's a reasonable argument to say you could reduce that sentence. And I do think he was overcharged. But would you say that that's unfair, or do you think he should have gone completely guilty or completely scot-free?
Well, my argument is that he wasn't guilty of murder. So I think we agree. I think that they could have gave him a lesser sentence and they could have factored in the evidence that shows he did not intend to kill. He went to the track meet as a regular teenage boy. He had a multi-purpose tool, which I can show anyone here the tool if they don't agree. The tool had a glass cutter on it, a glass breaker on it. It had a
4-inch blade,
a device that way you can cut spline on small pieces of rope. In his book bag, he had crossword puzzles, he had keys, he had snacks. This is a kid who was going to a track meet to compete. This kid had a 3.7 GPA. He was a captain on his football team, had leadership qualities, was a good
no
kid,
priors, right?
No priors, nothing.
Stable
Squeaky
household.
cutter clean. And American society says, oh, black culture, you got YNs, you got kids that do negative things, bad things. This kid is exactly the opposite. And you got people cheering that this kid got 35 years when he could have been in society being productive instead of wasting taxpayer dollars on a kid who didn't intend to murder someone. We know the evidence shows that. So a lesser charge, I can agree to that, but not murder.
Well, okay, then we might agree.
So again, anyone who's, you got coons and you got racists. The people who saying that is guilty of murder and he should get 35 years, that's a highlight to me, a red flag that you're a racist. If you flip it around, especially with all the new information coming around about how Austin Metcalf and his brother, they have criminal records, they have a history of racist, anti-Semitic, all types of things in these kids' background. They said hell Hitler, kill all blacks, all types of stuff in these kids' background. A history of violence, attacking people, beating up girls, boys, a history of bullying black kids. Austin Metcalf got in trouble for bullying a black kid in class. I think it was in 2024. So they have a history of this stuff, which points to their intentions, which points to them picking on Carmelo Anthony when he's under the tent. All right? We know from witness testimony that a coach was, nearby, was 20 feet away. Joshua Redmond, I said this several times that he was nearby. So they could have easily went and got a coach, but they wanted to escalate the situation. They like beating up on black kids. They like bullying.
Because I agree with all that. He had no priors. He almost definitely did not go here to kill someone. If he had this knife on him, either he was using it as a tool, or some people just have a knife for like self-defense, right? And that's like how he perceived he used it. I bet in his heart of hearts, he thought that was self-defense, right? That makes sense to me. Unfortunately, Texas doesn't have manslaughter in this way as a secondary charge. It's you are charged with murder, but the sentencing is then reduced to the second degree felony. So it's still called murder, but at the end, then they have to, with a preponderance of evidence, show that this was a crime of passion. It seems that they failed to do that, even though that you and I probably agree it probably was that. That's when he would have gotten the 2 to 20 years, but he still would have been charged with murder, even if he got that lesser charge or lesser sentence.
Yeah, but they could have included the lesser charges and then they could have sentenced him to a lesser charge like they've done in various other cases. And then he could have ended up with a 2 to 5 year sentence. And then I wouldn't be here making this argument.
So no, what I'm saying is if he got the 2 to 20 years, he would still have been charged with murder. It just would have been second degree felony charge or sentencing for a charge of murder.
You could get charged with murder and not found guilty of murder. You could get found guilty. You get charged with murder and other lesser charges, and then the jury can decide whether it was murder or a lesser charge.
The lesser sentencing, 2 to 20 years, is still a murder charge. That's what I'm saying. That's how it works in Texas.
No, they could give him a manslaughter charge. They could give him aggravated assault, one of those charges. They could have put one of those charges in the book.
What I'm saying is a crime of passion, stabbing with this second statute with intent to cause bodily harm, which is murder, still is that sentencing of 2 to 20 years, which you might call manslaughter, but this is still called murder. So either way, he gets charged with murder.
No, they have other. Are you saying they don't have like manslaughter as a charge?
I believe not in this county, not the way it works. It is in the same way that you might call manslaughter second degree murder.
So they do. They have manslaughter and they have negligent homicide. So when we go down to, and everyone can look this up, Texas Penal Code 19.5, they have criminally negligent homicide they could have charged him with. Texas Penal Code 19.4, they have manslaughter they could have charged him with. So again, this is what I'm talking about with facts. Texas Penal Code 19.4 is a manslaughter charge. Texas Penal Code 19.5 is criminally negligent homicide. So I fact checked in the moment if you are getting to the truth. Now, I don't believe he's trying to just be disingenuous here. I believe, and I could be wrong, but based off how Soy Pill debated and how he had the discussion, I think he just didn't know. They do have that. So then he would concede to my point. He's conceding to my point that they could have charged him with a lesser charge. Those are not under 19.2. Those would have to be under 19.2 for what he's talking about for it to still be considered a murder charge. It's its own separate part of the penal code. It's under 19.4 and 19.5. They had those separate charges. It's not murder. He agrees.
This is what it is. It's murder with a sentencing of a second-degree felony.
Yeah. So you're saying they don't have lesser
Lesser sentencing. Yeah, they do.
No,
But
not sentencing. They don't have charges, like lesser charges.
they have different charges. But
okay.
but what he did would be murder with a second-degree felony sentence for a charge of murder.
No, what he did would not be murder at all, based on definition.
Based on the second statute, it would be.
No,
I mean, I
wouldn't.
know you disagree, but this is how
Yeah.
this would have happened. If you and I agree he should have gotten a 2 to 20 year sentence, that would have come from charging him with the second statute and then sentencing him for 2 to 20 years because the defense would have had to prove that it was a crime of passion.
Fair enough. So based on the second definition, prove to me, based on his actions, that he intended to kill him. He intended to cause the death.
Well, if you don't agree that a knife is lethal force, then you have a proprietary definition
No, you
of
could.
lethal
No,
force.
a knife can be used to cause lethal force. It's a lethal weapon, so it's a gun.
Yeah.
But prove to me, based on his actions and the evidence, he intended to kill him.
Well, he had a knife and he used it. That's using lethal force.
But having it, no, that's not the definition. You want me to read it?
I think you're misunderstanding the definition.
No. Intend to cause. I'm just going to read what it says.
Right.
Intend to cause serious bodily injury
Yes.
and commit an act clearly dangerous to human life that causes death.
Yeah,
Now,
how's that?
prove to me he intended, and he knew he would kill him. He knew he would cause his death.
Right. So this is not how the courts work. You can never read someone's mind. You have to go on what happened here. He had the knife in his bag. He knew his hand was on it. He said, "I'm going to use this." He didn't say it was a knife, but he knew he had his hand on the knife, and then he used it on a person. This is using lethal force with intent.
Where's the intent? Where's the intent?
When it came out of his hand and went into his chest.
Where's the intent to cause death?
Well, and maybe I can help a translation error. If he had if he was standing here and he swung a knife, not I don't know, hanging out, having fun, and he swung it being funny and it happened to stab somebody, that would be like an accidental. But if I actually take a knife and I direct it towards you as if I'm going to stab you, that is the intent portion of it. Maybe that helps. I don't know.
A little bit. I mean, also you can, there's cases that I've looked at where you can show that it wasn't intent to kill, where people are slashed multiple places because he's just kind of wildly flailing. And it's a lot harder to show intent when it's like, okay, I'm just trying to get you off of me and get away. But it's when you're shoving it into someone's chest, unfortunately, it's going to prove intent a lot easier.
No, see, so for me, the intent would be if he stabbed him multiple times. And also, if you look at the video clip, Austin is standing.
Why the multiple times though?
Because multiple times you're more likely to die the more times you get stabbed.
Sure, but all it has to be is serious bodily injury.
Did you see the video?
Yeah, it's a little zoomed out though.
So in the video, and I zoomed in on it, studied it several times, right? In the video, he's standing over him and he's significantly bigger. He has 40 pounds on him, according to their max prep. So if you look at the same thing, the max preps has Carmelo Anthony listed as 5'11", 160, and they have Austin Metcalf listed as 6 feet 200.
Yeah, it's a big weight difference. Yeah.
So, and he's standing over him, and he grabs him and pushes down. All he quickly does is this and gets out of it. It's so quick I can read it to you. He stabs him. He gets grabbed at 9:38, 9 minutes and 38 on the victim, according to the F1 444 video brought into the North End point of the stadium video. He gets grabbed at 9:38. He's already out of the tent at 9:40.
Sure.
Like 9 minutes and
I mean,
like 2
how,
seconds.
how fast you
within-
stab someone doesn't make it lethal force or not. That
No,
doesn't
that
matter.
goes, we're going to intentions.
Yeah,
Like, that goes to show that it was a quick reaction.
If you shoot someone quickly, that's still lethal force. If you stab someone quickly, this is still lethal
A
force.
gun, a bullet is very far different than a knife.
It is, but unfortunately, both are lethal force.
Yeah, but that's a logical fallacy in the percentage of death. It's far more dangerous if I use a gun than if I use a knife.
Yeah.
So if we already went over the data from PubMed and we said it's 33% dying from gunshots and 7% dying from stab wounds, that's a logical fallacy with this comparison. You're 5 times more likely, you're nearly 5 times more likely to die from a gunshot than a stab wound. So that's why this comparison doesn't work. This is what I'm talking about. I don't know if he's doing this on purpose. I don't think he's doing this on purpose. But I'm pointing out that that is a logical fallacy. If this was an actual graded debate, I haven't used a logical fallacy. I want someone to point it out. I haven't used it. This was an actual debate. You get graded on this. He's using a logical fallacy because we know that guns and bullets are far more dangerous and deadly than a knife.
And it's far more
Speaking
dangerous than a
anthropologically.
knife than it is, a fist. But a fist is usually not lethal force unless you have what do they register your hands if you're in martial arts or
They
something
don't do
crazy.
that.
They don't do that. That's a myth.
No, I'm a
The
fourth
point-
degree black belt. They don't do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I won't get in a fight just in case anyway. But either way, the point is that this is what is considered lethal force by courts. But we're going to loop on this a lot. But I think maybe I want to see if you agree with this. If we don't cede that, the idea that he probably should have gotten charged with something, by saying he's not guilty of murder, you're kind of spreading this message of like, oh, he's completely innocent, because there was this narrative to try to paint him as innocent, right? They had a lot of GoFundMe's for his bail. There are a lot of people that said the jury was unfair, and that might have been true, right? There were no black people on the jury, but there was a lot of people being filmed outside saying, he should go free. Well, we're not allowed to defend ourselves. And I think when you do this, what we're doing is we're driving people into these racist narratives where they're like, well, this guy's at least saying that he did something wrong. And so if you and me can't say, yeah, this kid should have gone to jail for something, then they all go to those people as well, at least they're telling the truth. And then they get this racist, white supremacist narrative where they're trying to paint black people as this, I don't know, what you were talking about, where it's oh, they're bad kids, they're raised in this bad neighborhood, and they're, that's why they go around and they just stab people willy-nilly and they get off free, even though he was charged probably more than you, and I think he should be. So would you at least agree that if we can't at least admit that something bad happened here, we are letting those people run away with the narrative?
Well, something bad happened when a teenager dies, regardless of
Sure.
the matter. Something bad happens. I don't think Carmelo Anthony behaved perfectly, but perfectly doesn't warrant the sentence. In a perfect world, he would have had the maturity level of a 35-year-old and the emotional constancy of someone who's 35 years old. And be like, you know what? I'm going to just walk away from the situation. They're telling me to leave the tent. Even though I feel like I'm being bullied, I'm just going to walk away right now. But
Yeah.
because he didn't behave perfectly, it doesn't warrant the sentence. It doesn't warrant what happened. It doesn't prove intent. It doesn't prove murder. So what I would say to that, you also have to factor in stature. So again, if someone was in here and they grabbed me and that person is, say, 6'8", 300 pounds, I'm not going to fight you. I'm a 4th degree black belt. I've been doing martial arts for 20 years. I'm not fighting that person. They would more than likely get stabbed. So my whole thing is, as a martial arts instructor, as someone who teaches self-defense, I teach all my students, don't ever touch someone first. Don't ever do that. Don't ever hit someone. People can talk. People can threaten. If someone invades your space or they're threatening the life of you or someone else, or they touch you, you have the right to defend yourself. And you can defend yourself very
Any way you want.
harshly. Because I know if you touch me, that's why I hope no one ever touches me. Because if I don't have a weapon on me, you still may end up dead. I find, I don't know where my mind will go if you touch me and assault me. That's why I'm luckily I've never had to use it, and I don't use it. I let people talk. So I've had people who are drunk, like, yeah, man, I'll kick your butt and all of that. I laugh.
Yeah.
You sure will.
Last kind of quick minute, and then we'll move into closers. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, so if I guess you obviously said these aren't comparable, but had Anthony like pulled a gun out and shot him, because don't get me wrong, I think you and I agree, he was pretty fucking scared. He's surrounded by these giant football playing teenagers. There's probably a good argument that these kids were racist, given the fact of what his dad has said after the fact with the whole, racial watermelon felon, I think he said, which
We now know that they in fact were racist.
is like, yeah, okay, this guy probably didn't raise the best kids. Would that somehow justify that if
No.
using that lethal
If
force?
he would have had a gun on him, first he would have been committing a crime. So he would be causing
Let's say it was
death
a legal
in the commission of a felony. You can't have a gun. No one unless if you're not law enforcement, it is illegal in America to have a gun on
A school
high
grounds?
school campus.
Okay, well, let's just assume it wasn't. I'm just saying, like, in the same situation, let's say it's like in a place where you had like a concealed carry permit, right?
Well, he can at 17.
Okay, hypothetically, let's say he did. Would this be justified? Let's say it was legal to have the gun, but would it be justifiable for him to pull that gun out and shoot him because that guy said, you need to leave? He said no, stood his ground, and shot this guy.
Where? Like, for example, because Florida, yes, is perfectly
Let's say it's still
legal.
in Texas.
So we could look at the stand your ground law. I have the data. If we have time to look through the similarities between Texas stand your ground and Florida stand your ground, because Texas has a stand your ground law. But just in that case, if we're just going to look at high school kids, I don't think if someone puts a hand on you in that type of setting, I don't think you should shoot them. No.
Sure. And
Yeah.
so
That would be a crime. Like
why is
a
that?
gun.
Why is that? What, say 20% difference in
20,
fatalities?
it's over 25%.
No, so yeah, 25% for the gun. You said 5% for the stabs. Why is that 20% difference enough? Is that's all it takes for it's like, okay, this is too much force now?
Mhm.
Okay. Wait,
Yeah,
you're
'cause
saying
it's
that would be
Yeah, it's a gun.
right.
They're not. It's a logical fallacy in the mortality rate.
I'm trying to see like where do you draw the line where apparently 25% fatalities from gunshot wounds is enough, but 5% from stabbings isn't. But even though both
You're
of
talking
these,
about what high school kids?
no, I'm just talking about whether or not it's lethal force, right? Both of these have an over 70% fatality rate, but you say no.
They have an over.
Excuse me, a 70% survival rate, right? Both of these things. But because there's a 20% discrepancy between the shootings and the stabbings are not
20%.
lethal force.
Not 20%.
It's
Over 25% difference.
25% from the shootings, 5% you said
No,
from the
no, no.
stabbings.
So 33% die from gunshot wounds,
Okay, excuse me, 28%.
and 7.7% die from stabbings.
Okay, 26%.
Okay.
So this 26% discrepancy is enough to say, well, gunshots are lethal force, but stabbings aren't.
No, they're both can be lethal force.
Right,
Yes.
right. So the survival rate doesn't matter.
No, the survival rate does matter, but they both are lethal force.
Okay,
Like they
right.
both are lethal weapons.
Right. So lethal force can cause bodily harm that can result in death. And that's why it's murder from that second statute.
Have to intend to murder you.
Yes,
Have to
by
intend
using
to
the lethal
cause death.
force.
I have
Yes.
no, but you're not proving it. Like that's what I'm saying. Your actions, his actions before, during, and after doesn't prove he intended to kill him. He didn't intend to cause the death. He intended to get him off him.
Did he
That's what
intend-
it proves.
All you have to prove is that he intended to cause bodily harm, serious bodily harm that can result in death, which is stabbing.
No, clearly dangerous to human life.
That's,
That causes
stabbing
death.
is clearly dangerous to human life.
No.
Yeah, I think we're mixing up intention. So intention would be like the action of like picking up a knife and projecting it
It says
towards
intent
you,
to
right?
cause serious bodily injury. I don't. You can't prove he intended to cause serious bodily injury.
He intended to stab him. That's a serious.
So now this moderator, I don't think she's impartial. Again, the things you guys don't see. So after we went through debates with like people, there will be like, breaks. They gave breaks. Now, mind you, I stayed there. I stayed in that seat the whole time. The way I move, that's just the way I move. Also, this was a challenge for me, things like that. So people don't know background information that I was in that seat for over 4 hours. Now, again, I got breaks. I had the opportunity to get up if I wanted to and things like that. A lot of the time, these guys were talking to me, and I'm observing the situation. On breaks, this moderator was like saying, like, oh, I don't know why someone didn't bring up this point. I don't know why someone didn't bring up this point. Never anything for my argument. She's at telling the other people, I'm shocked that they didn't bring up such and such a point, which I don't think a moderator should do. That's showing, like, to me, that's showing your bias. You're not impartial. you should never be discussing the debates, the topics within the setting, within the room, anything like that around the people who are having the discussion. I should never know which side you favor or why you, or if you wanted certain arguments presented, because I think you would only bring that up if you're on that side. So, like, we were talking about reparations. One time she's on a break, she's like, I don't know why no one brought up people going back to get reparations from Africans who sold them and stuff like that. And I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, why would she say that? So when she's saying stuff like this, stuff that I already know, we know that he intended to stab him. But by him intending to stab him, that doesn't mean he intended to cause serious bodily harm. We know that he intended to pull a knife on him and put the knife on his skin. We don't know if he intended to cut him, slash him, give a deep laceration. We don't know exactly how you know what I'm saying? Even if you say he intended to stab, serious bodily harm would be what? Stitches, staples, or death. Because you're getting those. You get stabbed, you're going to need stitches to fix that, staples for a deeper laceration, or you die. So again, we're talking about one stab wound. I would love to hear the other options. If it's to heal up, if that person is not getting stitches, they're not getting staples, what do you get to fix a stab wound? If you can't fix it, it's because you died. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, so you have to prove what we mean by serious bodily harm, and the percentages just don't prove that, especially with one stab wound, which is why I'm saying you would need multiple stab wounds. If he stabbed them 2, 3, 4, 5 times, then you can say, okay, he intended to cause serious bodily harm. Now it's headed more towards it's more likely this person's going to die, or it looks more likely like this person's intending to kill. If he stabbed them 5 times in the stomach, it's like, okay, that's, you went overboard. But one time is get off me.
Bodily injury.
No, it's not.
Why not?
He intended to put a knife on him. That doesn't mean he intended to cause serious bodily injury.
Okay, so the way this works is what is considered a objective reasonable standard. Objective reasonable standard is stabbing someone is a serious bodily injury. Just because, unless you missed, then it's like, okay, maybe he intended to and missed, but you would have to show that, oh, that's why he only grazed his toe, or like, nicked him in the shoulder and not stabbed him in the chest. That is serious bodily injury.
So
and it clearly was because he died.
So how do we know he didn't intend to cut him?
But we don't.
We're
But that's why you have to prove that he didn't.
We are starting to loop, gentlemen,
Yeah.
and out of respect for everybody's time, let's go ahead and give some closers. So if you want to give a quick closer, and then I'll give it back to Dr.
Yeah,
James.
I appreciate the conversation. I think you're a little confused on that second statute, but regardless, I think we agree he should not have been sentenced to 35 years. I think if you look at all the circumstances, this was a scared kid who, got a little out of hand. If he was more mature, maybe he wouldn't have escalated, but he does not deserve to have his whole life ruined for 35 years. He'd probably go, I think 2 to 5. And like maybe with some plea deal. And I think it's important for both of us to acknowledge, like, this is a bad thing that he did. He does deserve some punishment. It sucks that this has been racialized, and it sucks that this is in the context of like the Black community getting, just smeared all over the time for every Black Lives Matter case. And so I get the reaction that people have, and I just think we have to be cool and level-headed, look at the objective evidence, and not cede that ground to racist right-wingers who are trying to turn this into like a race-baiting case. But I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, we agree he should, the 35 years for murder is just not right. Again, to me, until his intention to cause his bodily injury and commit an act clearly dangerous to human life, his actions before, during, and after don't prove that. They prove that he intended to defend himself. Again, when you pull a knife and you react quickly in a split second, which is what this was, you can say that this person, maybe they intended to cut him, maybe intended to graze him, whatever, scare him, but the action was so quick that he had that type of reaction. So I don't think anyone can prove based on the evidence that he intended to cause the death of Austin Metcalf, and that's where my claim comes from.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Shake hands, get up, walk away. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching all.
So, I like how Soy Pill debated. There was a few times, you know, the logical fallacies. You know, I don't think he proved it was murder. Like again, you have to prove that the person intended to cause seriously bodily harm, clearly dangerous to human life. So that means dangerous to human life means will cause the death of. And those percentages, you can't tell me that 95% of the people survive this, and then you say that's clearly dangerous to human life. That just doesn't make sense. Anyone who's claiming that that makes sense, you know, you're talking to a racist, someone who is far right, or someone, you know, who has extreme views, a coon, things like that. Someone who just is not being honest, not being objective, because the percentages don't make sense. And I cited 3 studies that showed the percentages, very low percentages, especially for one stab wound. Even when we looked at the data for stab wounds to the heart, it was at 11%. So then you got 89% of people surviving. You can't say clearly dangerous to human life. That's why I'm saying if Carmelo Anthony stabbed him multiple times, then you can have an argument that this person was in a fit of rage. They wanted to kill him. He stabbed him several times. Stabbing someone several times, we can look and be reasonable and say, you're intending to kill someone at this point. With one stab wound, can't say that. But I like how he had the discussion. I was able to shake his hand after. He and I discussed things after. But just look at that. That was the first discussion. And that was what? I have it on the negative, but that was, when do I change it? Because that was a decent amount of time.
And like maybe with some plea deal,